everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Sam from the B Bunch family. This is my channel, Teacher Vibes, where I give advice on and tips and tricks on the teaching profession, how I survived for almost 10 years. So today I want to talk about managing work relationships. So in my last video I talked a little bit about, well, part one of this relationship I talked about some personal relationships. This time I want to talk about some professional relationships, and I am going to keep it a little bit short because I feel like it should be straight into the point. However, time is limited for us as well. So one of the relationships I would suggest is, especially with the way things are moving, and that's Anna in the background. If you remember from my B Bunch channel, she's also there as well. So one of the relationships that I wanted to touch on was collaborating with co-teachers or other teachers within your content area or within your department. One of the things that I would like to mention is that it is something that you're gonna have to get used to, in the sense that you can treat some relationships. Let me start over. Some relationships can be fostered well, especially when you both can get along, when you have similar interests. You can actually wind up planning certain activities together with more fidelity, more pop culture references, and then it actually makes the time go by a little bit quicker. So I suggest, when you work with your, for this argument, I'm gonna say to co-teacher, when you're working with your co-teacher, and ideally you have one, I suggest that you get to know one another really well, because you will be spending at least minimum 6 months, presuming your schedule doesn't change, for one semester. But if you're there if you're projected to work with each other for the year, you really try to get along and do your best. Be professional. As we all like to know, as we start to get to know people, we start to get comfortable, and then the boundaries that do normally exist for co-workers kind of like blurs. Like, oh, this is my friend, it doesn't really matter, I can throw this joke, that joke, and then it can get kind of hazy. So one warning sign I can give you for that is, at the end of the day, even though you are, let's say you are friends, they are still your coworker first, and you still want to be respectful of whatever the case may be. Respect boundaries. Always try to be the bigger person. If you may not always agree, and for sake of argument, let's just say you two do get into like a big disagreement, then try to be the bigger person and try to work it out. Nobody, we are in this together. At the end of the day, you are trying to help the students, but you are also working with students together, sometimes in the same room for the entire period. And if for whatever reason there's hostility, students are going to pick up on that, and then eventually it's going to bleed over when it shouldn't bleed over at all. So definitely, if you're working with a co-teacher or other collaborative partners, make sure you're respectful and try to get to know each other. That's the basic gist of that first tip. Get to know each other really well, and that way you can see the quirks, because who knows, maybe even your work relationship can form into a friendship later on, or some, whatever you want down the line. You never know, like sometimes you might hang out over the summer, or other things can happen as well. Next tip is surviving with let me say administration. That is a little tricky, and it's gonna sound like something that comes out of a novella. If you saw my first video on tips, that was kind of long. Get it all in writing. Even the nicest administrator, the greatest person in the world, they go to your barbecues, they go to your baby showers, whatever. Get it in writing. Always, get it in writing, because at the end of the day, they may or may not have a boss, and then you're still the subordinate. So you do eventually still have to fall in line, even though they might help you in some way, which I hope that they're not, but keep that in mind. Something out of, like a novella would be like, there's a lot of trifling with observation reports, or they pretended not to see something. You know, adults theoretically know better. Kids do not. So usually when things happen by an adult, it's not always necessarily by accident. However, that's not to say that everything that an administrator or a fellow colleague does is on purpose. You know, what I've learned is that people, in the general sense, mean well, and when they mean well, they do try their best, and you can tell from the tone of voice genuinely that they are trying hard, and it doesn't appear fake. You should be able to read some of that. However, if you do have difficulties with that, maybe, you know, like, ask someone really close to you that who may work in the same, like, who works in the same building, who may have worked with them in the past, that you can trust. Because what tends to happen is the telephone game starts. This person said this. Sometimes word gets around, and adults are just as bad as students, where gossip comes into play, and you know, it's a lot. The last thing I'm going to really give you is, I think you should always make time to plan together, work together, you know, give each other advice, whether it's for figuring out what's best for the students in terms of academia, social, emotional stuff. Be mindful of that time, because sometimes what we can do is go off the rails about this one child who, you know, threw everybody for the world that one day. No. Stay focused on the mission for that particular session of time, because all of our time is limited, and we can do nothing more but try to keep everything structured as best as possible. I know this video was a little short. However, if you have any questions or any feedback you'd like to give me, please comment down below. If you're interested in family vlogs on infertility, marriage, dating advice, I have another channel called the B Bunch Family. It's going to pop up on that card right up there, and I'll also include the link down below. Also, I did a teacher's choice budget video a while back, and I'll put that link it's a referral link. I do not get paid for that at all. It is just a free trial for like a budget on YNAB. If you have any difficulties with trying to manage your money and things like that, just literally click, get a free trial. If you like it, sure, you can subscribe. At most I get is a month. I don't get any like monetary compensation. I don't get any of that stuff. I hope this video was at least a little helpful. This is Aaron from the B Bunch Family. Come to you with teacher vibes, and we're out.